Hi there, I'm Emily Muehlstein with the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council, and this is a public hearing video on lane snapper annual catch limits and accountability measures. So just a little rundown on the current management measures we have in place for lane snapper. There is no separate allocation between commercial and recreational sectors. The fishing season runs from January 1st through December 31st, and there is a 8-inch minimum size limit. And finally, there is no commercial trip limit, and lane snapper is included within the 20 reef fish aggregate bag limit. And to share a little bit of background on recent lane snapper landings, lane snapper harvest has exceeded the annual catch limit each year from 2016 through 2019. In December of 2019, lane snapper was closed when the annual catch limit was projected to be met. And this table here will show you our landings from those recent years. And now to go into a little bit of background on our stock assessments. We did have a stock assessment completed in 2016. The catch advice that came out of that assessment aligned with the catch limits that we currently had in place, so the council took no action. In 2019, an update assessment was performed that incorporated landings data from 2015 through 2018, and it showed an increase in stock biomass. Additionally, the update converted landings from MRFs to the MRIP Fishing Effort Survey landings. So you may be wondering why we're here. Well, since that recent update assessment showed an increase in biomass, and we converted to the new Fishing Effort Survey landings data, we are able to increase the catch limits for lane snapper. Additionally, since we've overharvested our annual catch limit for lane snapper in recent years, we are considering making some modifications to the seasonal closure accountability measures. So we'll start by looking at Action 1, which considers modifying our catch limits and annual catch targets for lane snapper. So our current catch limits were actually set without a stock assessment using an average of 10 years landings for the time period between 1999 and 2009. Additionally, those catch limits are set using the old MRFs data currency. And the annual catch target for lane snapper is set at 14% below the annual catch limit, but it is not used to trigger a seasonal closure. And this table simply shows you our current lane snapper catch limits. Now, it is important to remember that this recent update assessment and new recreational data currency allow for our catch limits to increase. So we have three alternatives to consider here. The first is the no action alternative, and that would leave our catch limits as they are. Our second alternative would modify the overfishing limit, acceptable biological catch, and annual catch limits for lane snapper based on recommendations from the Council's Scientific and Statistical Committee. And this would not set an annual catch target for lane snapper. And that third alternative would also modify the overfishing limit, acceptable biological catch, and annual catch limit based on the Scientific and Statistical Committee's advice. And it would set the annual catch target at 16% below the annual catch limit. And then this table simply shows you a comparison of the values that would be set for each alternative in Action 1. So next we'll move on to Action 2, which considers the season closure accountability measure. So the current accountability measure is if the annual catch limit is exceeded in a given year, then in the following year, if the annual catch limit is projected to be met, the season would be closed. And we're considering action here because modifying the accountability measure could prevent overharvest in the future. So we have three alternatives here as well. The first is the no action alternative. Alternative 2 is that if the annual catch limit is met in a fishing year, then in the following fishing year, the recreational and commercial sectors would be closed if the annual catch target is met. And alternative 3 is if harvest meets a trigger, a prescribed trigger, in a given year, then both commercial and recreational fishing sectors would be closed for the remainder of the year. And we could choose the trigger here. Option A, the trigger would be the annual catch limit, and option B would make the trigger the annual catch target. This slide will show you what the fishing season might look like based on which alternative is selected in Action 1 and which trigger is selected in Action 2. So the Council plans to take final action on this amendment at its January meeting. We would like to hear your comments before we take final action, and you can submit those either by visiting our online comment form or simply by emailing golfcouncil@golfcouncil.org. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and send us your thoughts.